Hi guys, Crystal Cox here, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about my beef with Proskauer Rose. This is not really about a domain name dispute. See, the records seem to show ProskauerLawFirm.com is a domain name that I want to dispute on. Do they have a legitimate trademark on the name Proskauer? Of course they do. This is also not about the fact that their top attorneys were not smart enough to buy their domain names. I had KennethRubinstein.com and MatthewTriggs.com, which I let them go about a year ago. I'm not sure even why I let them go, but basically I used these names to get a story told. Everybody seems to call my sites gripe sites. Do you call the New York Times gripe sites? No. Is everything in the New York Times true? Do you know if it's true? Let's see. Or is it maybe the news, or the news according to the reporter, or the jaded version of the reporter? You seem to think that if it's a news site, like that's been around for decades, that it's legitimate news, it's not a gripe site. Even if they're complaining about Obama or bitching about this or bitching about that, they're not gripe sites, right? They're the news. Why am I not the news? Because I'm just some blogger? Because I'm just one person? I'm on top of the search engines for the biggest law firm in the world and their top attorneys. And it doesn't matter what domain name I use to do it. When they come after my domain names, I got my other sites on top, like attorneycorruption.com and ethicscomplaint.com and crystalcox.com. It's because I'm good at internet marketing. And I use internet marketing to give a voice to inventors like the I View It inventors, to people that are subject to bankruptcy corruption, to rape victims, to victims of financial fraud. I have used my sites to help victims for years now. Yes, I make a living on the internet. I sell a nutritional supplement to reverse heart disease. That's how I make a living. I do these gripe sites to make the world a better place. I'm an investigative blogger. Yes, I certainly am. Proskauer Rose says that I'm not, that I'm just parroting Elliot Bernstein. Let's see here. Make sure this is still recording. Blogs parrot. They all do, okay? The New York Times parrots the news, right? These days, the news is like just sent to them on the computer, right? Then they repost it, or they talk about it on television, and they parrot it. But that Jenifer deWolf Paine that come after me on behalf of Joseph, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, Lysis or something, and Greg Mashberg and Ellen Fagan and all the people at Proskauer Rose that wanted to come for me to take their domain names, well, they seem to think that it's about I View It, the technology that they stolen, which you can see that story at deniedpatent.com, or just Google any part of it, or Google anything to do with Proskauer Rose and corruption and you find me. They seem to think that my blogs are all about that. Well, no. People send me stories about Proskauer Rose. I started writing about, real estate industry whistleblower. I started writing about bankruptcy corruption, and I stumbled on the I View It story just about 2 years ago, and I've been writing on it. It's like these stories were out there over a decade, but I'm so good at internet marketing, accidentally, right? Accidentally get on top of the search engines and they throw a big fit about it. So there's thousands and thousands of documents out there. I grab one, put it on top of the heap, and Proskauer Rose gets mad because they don't want no one to know about the perjured depositions, the lies on bills, the fraud, everything they did that is true, that they really were involved in this $13 trillion technology theft. They don't want nobody to see it. So along comes me, who's passionate about helping these inventors and getting them heard for free, and what are they going to do? Well, Proskauer Rose has been on my websites for 2 years, since I started. I have web stats to prove it. So what happened? Why all of a sudden in April of 2011, after this has been about 11 years ago that they stole or were involved in stealing this technology, which also helped bring down Enron, and the proof is out there, right? I link to these documents of proof. I don't parrot them. They're things that are on the internet. I find, I write about them, I quote them, I link to them. That's what blogs do. But Proskauer Rose just, wants to attack me. They think that the way to shut me up is to just take the domain names, right? So they want to take ProskauerLawFirm.com. Fine, right? So they didn't get it, and that's probably because WIPO was afraid to cause more of a stir, because I even got, you know, I don't know how to pronounce it, forgive me, but Caitlin Tauberg or whatever, the intellectual property attorney that is the head of WIPO, I got his.com. I mean, I don't think WIPO even knows what they're doing. See, seriously. So, the thing is what really happened, and of course this is my video, right? So it's my story. There was a woman named Dawn Osborne, and what I think happened was Prosecutor Rose didn't want to take me to court, and they didn't want to have a big defamation battle, and they didn't want to go through all the court system, even though I believe Prosecutor Rose controls the courts. If you look at everything to do with I View It, they had connections in the Supreme Court with Judith Kaye, they had Stephen Crane and Stephen Kaye, and you know, Kenneth Rubenstein and Christopher Wheeler, all these people involved in this massive technology theft, and they control the courts, in my opinion. The New York Attorney General's office helped them, and now the New York Attorney General is the governor, right? So, which is an interesting note, because this spring there was a break in that case after 11 years. 39 defendants from the New York Attorney General's office, from what I know, is they were representing themselves, and it was pointed out there's a conversation between the New York Attorney General's office and one of the I View It inventors, Elliot Bernstein, which you can find online. Just Google it. Google anything to do with any of this case, or email me, crystal@crystalcox.com, and I'll send you a link to it. So anyway, this is a conflict of interest. So it's exposing this, and once this happens, this 100 trillion, zillion, billion, yeah, that's a number, dollar law firm is going to go down, because the corruption over the last decade is proven, and they were involved with the New York Attorney General's office. They have connections to whitewashing. Look up the Christine Anderson stuff and the whitewashing in New York. Prosecutor Rose is guilty, okay? All you got to do is read. And so they wanted to shut me up. So basically they wanted to come for my domain names. But for some reason they didn't want to go through the courts, right? They figured it'd be easy, right? Like a 30-day process, less, no big deal, no muss, no fuss, even though they paid like $4,000 a domain name to file. So in my opinion, based on, you know, my ability to think for myself, and well, I could be wrong, because, you know, these things happen. And yeah, it's probably annoying that I keep looking, but it's more annoying to me if it shuts off. Anyway, I believe the panel from Switzerland, the UK, the United States, there's 3 people on the panel. Now, I believe that they had a plan. I believe that Dawn Osborne was part of the panel and that she was set up to take my domain names. Okay, so they figured, because I had 3 domain names in the top 10 search for Prosecutor Rose, they could just easily get millions of dollars worth of search that I'd worked on for 2 years just for free. They can just take the names and not worry about it. It's funny, I know I keep going on these little tangents, but 2 days after the WIPO decision, they bought every .com of their attorneys. They got like 700 attorneys. Pretty much bought every .com. Why didn't they do that before? Why did they punish me for being smarter than them? Anyway, I believe they had connections with Dawn Osborne. So I kept trying to get the WIPO panel to do a conflict of interest letter. I kept saying, look, you need to sign that there's no conflict of interest, that nobody to do with Prosecutor Rose has anything to do with the people on the panel. No family members, no past cases, no association whatsoever to ensure that I'm getting a fair decision, right? Well, they refused to do that. They said, well, that's not our policy, and of course it's like that, and you know, of course they're neutral, and they have all that on file. Okay, well, send me something that says that they swear they're neutral. No, that's just what, we don't do that, that's not policy. That's what that Caitlin said. Well, hello? I have millions of dollars in assets. I have 2 years, hundreds and hundreds of hours, my time, my money, my quality of life at stake here. And they can't even tell me whether they're conflicted? So, you know, I threw a big fit about it.